What's going on, guys? It's Brad from Rabid Games here, and welcome back to another mod video. Yes, you guys have been asking for one of these in what seems like forever. Another mod spotlight video, so yeah, I've decided to do another one for you, and who knows, I might do some more in the future. But this is the... I've forgotten the name of it already, oh god. So yes guys, this is the K.A.X mod. This is a spiritual successor to the Fire Spitter mod. It is in fact powered by the Fire Spitter mod, and I think the some of the mechanics and stuff and animations are copied straight from the Fire Spitter mod. And basically what it does is it adds a load of parts from the early days of aviation. So we have stuff such as propellers, we have helicopter parts as well, with all sorts of propeller driven aircraft. The actual strength of the propellers do actually vary depending on what sort of aircraft you're actually building them for. It also adds in one cockpit. As you can see here, this is the cockpit here. As you can see, it's like a gunship variant. It's 2.5 meters. And so this can be used for building stuff such as an AC-130 gunship. And so I will show you some aircraft I've built beforehand, as one you already saw in the intro clip anyway. I'll show you some aircraft that I've built beforehand which are pretty cool, including a gunship of this like. So aside from this cockpit, we have some new fuel tanks. They're only a couple because they're supposed to go along with this. So we have this one new fuel tank, which is a heavy fuselage for jet fuel. It carries fuel for space planes, and it carries 1,200 units of liquid fuel, and it has a mass of 6.35. So it's a pretty heavy fuel tank, if I do say so myself. Also, the texturing on the back here is kind of low res, as you can see here. I am using the texture replacer mod, which doesn't make it any better. But I've tried it without texture replacer and it is still quite low resolution, so that's just something to watch out for. This is still a work in progress mod. To complement this, we also have a fuselage section in the structural elements of it. This has a mass of 0.5 and it's basically the same thing but minus the fuel. We also have a heavy tail boom for these gunships, where you can attach a normal tail to it as well. Again, this has a mass of 1.5. For some reason, this is heavier than this, and other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same. Obviously, minus the fuel and like this tank as well. So moving away from these parts now, let's go on to the main bread and butter of this actual mod, which is the engines. So if we go to the engines tab, you can see first of all we have the A7 Aerosport engine. Has a mass of 0.25, has a max thrust of only 23, and it is a lightweight turbocharged engine with a lot of giddy up in a small package. You can see here it absolutely sips fuel. It says it uses liquid fuel at a rate of 0.027 units a second. And it drains evenly stage by stage, so you can have tanks anywhere on your aircraft and it will drain from those tanks evenly. But you're not going to be using more than one tank usually, unless you've got a twin-engined aircraft. You're not really going to be using any more than one engine, so you shouldn't really have any more than one tank. Because like I say, all these engines just absolutely sip fuel, and you're not really going to need them all that much. Fuel, should I say. And so yeah, let's take it out here, let's have a quick little look at it. Fits onto the 1.25 meter parts. You may have seen this from the craft in the intro. It's a decent little engine. I'll show you it in action in a minute. But yeah, I think the modelling on it is very nicely done, and I think it looks quite cute. Reminds me of like a light aircraft from the early days of aviation, or even the later days actually. It's a sort of stunt plane engine there. I think it looks pretty awesome. So next up, if you're wanting a twin-engine aircraft, you're going to need something with a bit more grunt, and you're probably going to need two of them as well. This is where this D25 radial engine comes in. A big old fuel-sucking radial engine, heavy, dirty, inefficient and powerful, produces a max thrust of 52.031 and has a mass of 0.8. Now they say that this is a fuel-sucking engine, when really it actually isn't. It's actually more efficient than the Aerosport engine. It uses rate of fuel at a rate of 0.015 units per second. Obviously you're probably going to want two of them, like I said with the other one. because it's meant for twin-engined aircraft, twin-engine sort of light bombers, sort of World War II style. So if we take it out here and we have a look, you can see that it has 3 propellers, which is obviously why it has more thrust. Again, it's very well modelled. I actually really like it. It reminds me sort of like the front of a Mustang, P-51 Mustang, if that's the correct name. I completely forget. The American fighter from World War II. I think it looks really, really nice. And yeah, I'll show you it in action in a little bit when I actually show you some craft that I have constructed. So that's another nice little engine. Okay, so this is the next thing. I haven't really tried this out yet because I'm not really sure how good it actually is. But this is the jump jet engine, and it's going to make making VTOLs a hell of a lot easier. It says an air-breathing jump jet engine. This model can be surface mounted for optimal thrust delivery in any direction, especially suitable for VTOL aircraft. It uses fuel at about 0.025 units a second. It does require intake air. And so yes, one thing about this jump jet engine that is not true for these guys, these little engines, and I think this engine here, these guys have built-in air intakes into them. They don't intake all that much air, but to be honest, for the altitudes that you're going to be flying at with these guys, you really don't need all that much intake air because the atmosphere is so thick that it doesn't matter at all. And the fact that they use such little amounts of intake air, it doesn't really matter. This guy, because it's a jet engine, obviously it does need an intake air, as it doesn't actually have an intake of its own, and so that's probably going to be a bit of a bummer. But I think it's quite a cool little model. Obviously you'll probably need the intake air pointing upwards, just for KSP reasons. But I think it's quite a cool little engine here. It's not really something that I'd see myself using personally because I don't usually build VTOLs all that much. But it's quite nice. It's sort of like the nozzles on a Harrier that can swivel sort of forwards and backwards to make it go up and down, forwards, backwards and stuff, except it can't actually swivel. But if you combine this with Infernal Robotics, then maybe you could actually make it swivel and make a working Harrier jump jet, and I think that would be pretty awesome. And so the last actual propeller actually engine is the PT100 turboprop. It says a standard air-breathing turboprop. This lightweight and fuel-efficient alternative to jet engines performs best at standard cruising speeds and altitude. This is the heaviest and most powerful of the 3 propeller engines, shall we say. It has a mass of 1.2 and it uses fuel at a rate of, if I can get this up here, uses fuel at a rate of 0.008. So it is the most efficient, it is the heaviest, but it's also the most powerful of all the engines, the 3 turboprop engines that we actually have. It produces a max thrust of 71.399 at Mach 0.3, and if we take this out, you can see although it still attaches to the same sort of attachment port, a 1.25 meter port, as these other 2 engines, it is a lot larger and it has an extra propeller, hence the extra thrust. Now, what these guys are used for are multi-engined aircraft, so I'm talking more about sort of large fixed-wing aircraft such as the AC-130 gunship. Now, if you've ever seen an AC-130 in real life, you'll know that it has 2 propeller engines on each wing, so it has a total of 4 engines, and they're all powered by big turboprop engines like this, so fast, and it's rather efficient for the altitudes that it can actually cruise at. And I have to say, in actual practice, that these do the job very, very well. They are a very, very good engine for what you're actually doing. The fact that they're also really, really fuel efficient can mean that if you get up to speed at the right altitude, you could probably go on a pretty long journey with the aircraft that you're actually using. And I think that's a really nice sort of thing, although it is kind of imbalanced, because you think that the lightest engine would use the least fuel and the heaviest engine and the most powerful engine would use the most fuel. Obviously this mod is still in development, so they might change this, they might rebalance a couple of things, but aside from that, I think that aside from obviously those values regarding fuel consumption, I think that this is a pretty awesome little mod for these 3 propellers, and of course the little jet engine. These propellers and these fuselage sections aren't all that this mod adds though. This mod also adds an E50 electric propeller engine. Now if you've ever seen a US sort of strike drone that they have, I don't know what they're called exactly, I'm not a military buff by any means, but they're powered by an electric motor on the back of them or underneath the wings. And this is meant to emulate that, and so it has a mass of 0.225 and it has a max thrust of only 8. Now, you'd think being an electric motor, it would only take up electric charge and wouldn't take up any form of electric coolant, so to speak. But it does need some sort of coolant, and by that you do need to put some form of intake onto it, just to provide coolant for these electric motors. Let's take it out here. It is a radially mounted engine, so you obviously put it on and like undersling it under the wings or something. Oh, put it on top, and let's just use the cockpit here as an example. So I can just stick it on top of the cockpit here. I'll move the cockpit over so you can get a better view. Now, by default, all of these engines are designed to be pointed forwards. Okay, so this pointed forwards would be the set configuration for this motor here, and so by having it pointed forwards, it would drag the aircraft forwards. But if you want to have the engines facing this way, like they would be on a drone, you can right click in the vehicle assembly building and you can set the thrust to reverse. Now what this does is basically it means that the direction that the propeller is facing is now inverted. It's now an impeller rather than a propeller, and so this will still propel it forwards even though it's facing in the opposite direction. And this is true for all of the propeller engines in the game. All 3 of these can be set for inverse thrust. So if you wanted one of these facing backwards and you wanted a really obscure aircraft design, then you could do that, and I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a nice little realistic and neat little inclusion into the game there. The final thing that I want to talk about are helicopter parts. Yes, this mod adds in helicopter parts. And so you can see here we have the KH-1 Huey main rotor. It's a mass of 0.8 and a max thrust of 150. The tried and tested true KH-1 is a versatile lightweight helicopter rotor. Put simply, it makes things go up without fire. So if we take it out here, you can see that the rotors are pretty huge, I'm not going to lie. These are the only ones in the mod at this time as of recording this in 1.0.2. And I think the model, again, all of these parts, with the exception of maybe the low-res textures on the fuel tanks, all these parts are beautifully modelled, they really are. And you can see all the intricate details here, and all the sounds for them are really, really cool as well. So obviously this rotor is mounted radially, but you're most likely going to be putting it on top of an aircraft like so. Well, maybe not at the jaunty angle like I have, but you'll be definitely putting it on the top of a craft of some sort. But as we all know, helicopters do need a stabilizer at the back in order to stop them from spinning round out of control, because then bad things happen, and we don't want bad things to happen with this. So what you can do is you can either duplicate this. So if I just got a structural fuel section to prove my point here, where's it gone? Oh dear, I've bugged out the VIB. Something went all brummy then. If I just move this across here, move it back into the build zone, I can grab one of these, I'll attach that to the front. So what we could do with this is we could either, if I can find the engine, we can either put another one of these guys on the back. Oh wait, we can't actually invert the thrust. Right, so at the moment a Chinook design isn't currently possible, I don't think. We can always try it at some point. I may try that at the end of the video, but at the moment I don't think a Chinook is actually possible. You can, the way a Chinook works is by having the front rotor spinning in one way and the tail rotor spinning in another way to prevent the actual rotation of the craft, as far as I'm aware. The one way that you can actually stop this though is by, if I grab a tail boom section here, By going to the control tab, you can see that we have an NS90 tail rotor. It only has a max thrust of 0.002, so it's not going to be doing any more. It's not going to be doing any propulsion by any means, and it does have quite a heavy mass for what it is of 0.11. It does require coolant as well, so you will need a small intake for it, and the same goes for the big rotor as well. You will need an intake for it. After several unsuccessful attempts, Kerbal engineers realised they need a spinny thingy to counter the rotational torque of the bigger spinny thingy. Thus, the NS90 was born. So this attaches radially to the rear of a helicopter. I think that looks quite cool, actually. Obviously, this is off at a jaunty angle, but bear in mind I've only thrown this together. I think this looks quite sweet. If I move this further back, yeah, that's actually quite a cool helicopter, personally, I think. So obviously this basically just counteracts this and keeps your helicopter flying in a straight line, which is what everybody wants. Certainly what I'd want in a helicopter. If I was spinning around in a helicopter and I was all over the place while I was spinning around, then I'd probably be having a bad time. And I'm sure a lot of other people would be as well. So having this basically just stops your craft from being stupid, unless you want them to be stupid, in which case you don't have to put one of these on. But like I say, it's Kerbal Space Program, it's your decision. So what I'm going to do now, that's pretty much all of the parts for this mod, is I'm going to show you a few examples of the craft. Let's just get rid of everything here. I'm going to show you a few examples of the crafts that you can build. So I'm going to load up the first one here, which is going to be with the first engine I showed. Now this is probably the one I'm most proud of out of all of them, and you saw it in the intro clip. This is the KSP Spitfire. It is a parody of the Spitfire, and it actually flies pretty well. It's a bit slow on the uptake, but aside from that, it's actually a really manoeuvrable, quite fun little plane to fly if you can actually master it. You can see here I tried my best to emulate the Spitfire sort of oval wing design. It is quite hard to replicate in KSP, especially with the control surfaces being the shape that they are in order to provide adequate lift, because obviously I could have gone with the straighter control surfaces, these guys. Can I click on you, please? These guys. But to be fair, these ones don't provide enough lift compared to these ones, so unfortunately I had to kind of sort of stick with these ones, with the sort of angular sort of thing. It looks very good on a space shuttle, but unfortunately it doesn't look very good here, I don't think. But I tried my best, and I think the end result's pretty decent. So what I'm going to do is give this a quick fly around for you guys, demonstrate some of the effects. Okay, so we are on the launch pad. We're going to throttle up to full because this thing is going to need all the thrust that it can get. So you can see here I press space to activate the engine, and it makes the propeller sound and everything. I think that's pretty cool, and of course the animation is top notch as well. At the moment though, one bug I have found is when you're actually landing and you've got your throttle cut, the animation doesn't stop, and neither does the sound. I don't expect it to stop straight away because obviously it's a propeller. It needs to have time to spool down almost. Another problem I found with this craft is this wheel is slightly off kilter and there's no way to make it straight again. And so look at this rebel. So it does tend to sort of veer off to the left or the right when you're actually flying it. But look at this, we're flying the Spitfire around the KSC. And so obviously this is a little bit slower to actually turn compared to a jet aircraft. You can't turn it anywhere near as fast as you could turn a normal regular jet aircraft. Also, I suck at piloting. You can see that pile of debris there from an earlier attempt. Let's go down through these guys. Oh, look at that flyby of the radar station there. How beautiful. And so yeah, this engine for very low altitude cruising I think it's quite good. It's quite good for small aircraft like this. I wouldn't recommend it for anything larger than this. I would even say that the amount of fuel I've got in here is way too much, and you could actually improve the efficiency of the speed of this aircraft if you actually put less fuel in the jet tank here. You can see it's only using 0.02 fuel per second. We've been flying for about 30 seconds or so now, and we've used 2 units of the 150 units of fuel. Let's go dive down to the R&D facility here, level out. It's just like a really awful Battle of Britain sort of parody. Let's see if we can thread the needle between the buildings. Here we go. Oh, yes, there we go. And then pull away from the flagpole before we knock our wing off. So this is a nice little engine, but like I say, it's only meant for, all of these engines are meant for low altitudes compared to like say the jet engines, the ramjet engines, which is understandable because obviously these guys are propeller driven aircraft. They're more World War II than they are sort of Cold War to modern era. Okay guys, so this is my twin engined bomber aircraft. I designed it mimicking a bomber, an American bomber from World War II. It's a B something or other. I have a model of it somewhere in my bedroom somewhere, but I can't for the life of me remember the actual name of the aircraft other than that it was B something. It's not a very good representation because again, I can't exactly get the geometry of it right with Kerbal Space Program because I'm not exactly a brilliant builder. You can see here another part that's added in to this mod. You can see these landing gear. Basically, they're just larger versions of these guys because this mod was developed just before 1.0 was actually released. I think they're a really nice model. Again, all the models in this all the models in this mod are really, really good. I think top notch. Believe it or not, again you can see the awesome animation here. You can believe it or not, this thing actually flies pretty well. You can see we're getting off the ground straight away here at the back of the aircraft, and you can see if we hold down the chuck long enough, you can see we are airborne rather easily, and we can hold ourselves in the air for quite some time. So if we take the gear up, you can see the animation for the gears here, which is pretty sweet. I'm not gonna lie, it's quite neat, quite tidy. Like you can see here, we're actually getting up to about 20 meters per second more speed compared to what we were getting in the Spitfire. That's because the thrust-to-weight ratio roughly balances out with these two aircraft. Obviously, because these engines are more powerful and there's two of them, but it's got to carry a heavier weight. It does mean that this is slightly more powerful and slightly faster than the Spitfire. Although the Spitfire was lighter, but it had a less powerful engine in it. Whoa. Oof. That was quite close, I'm not going to lie that. Lift the wing up. There we go. This thing can fly if we put it to the test. I think this is all down to the pilot Rosie Kerman here. Here we go. I'm just going to glide it in for a stable landing on the grass, just like they would have done in World War II. So again here you can see the propellers aren't slowing down, they're just staying at their normal animation rate. That's a bug I think, and the same goes for the sound. Obviously the propellers would take time to like spool down obviously, and I think I've judged this all wrong. Oh no, actually it was a hard landing, but we landed it. So let's start braking here. Well, we can't brake too fast, otherwise we will tip over, because obviously we only landed on two wheels. Dignified stop. There we go. Oh, that's not very dignified. There we go. Excellent, brakes on, and a successful landing for the B something or other bomber. I just call it a twin engine bomber, but yeah, I think that's a nice showcase of these engines. Let's see what else we've got. And so yes guys, this is the C-130 analog that I decided that I would try and make. This thing is bloody huge, I'm not gonna lie. This is the tail fin of it. This is just because I really struggled to make a C-130 analog within KSP just because of the angular wing design that we have. I know that in real life a C-130 has much wider wingspan than this, and it also has much straighter wings as well. But unfortunately I couldn't really get the curved wing at the back, so I know it has a slightly curved wing just for aerodynamic purposes. The same again at this front end here. I know it's not quite perfect, but it's the closest I could get. Obviously you can see here we've got the four huge engines mounted under the wings, obviously the big fixed wing on the top. We have a big tail fin here, as well as two big ailerons on the back. So let's give this a quick fly to show you what these engines are like. Obviously these are the most powerful turboprop engines that you can get out of the three turboprop engines that we actually have in game. So you can see here the landing gear isn't really in the best configuration for this. You can see we are popping a wheelie straight off the bat. Hold on. Actually no, we're not popping a wheelie, we're fine. So if we throttle up to full, and you can see the four big engines starting to take off here, and I can hear the sound through my earbuds, even though I've currently not got my earbuds in, of those big well, not jet, turbofan engines, the big turbo on the turbofan engines giving us some lift. And so there we go, we're airborne, we'll take those gear up. And this also flies surprisingly well for such a large aircraft. It's very manoeuvrable. This is using the new cockpit. If I go into IVA view, you can see it has the old Mark III cockpit IVA. So the IVA is still very much a work in progress, unfortunately. And of course, I completely messed this up again. Yep, we have a C-130 down, and we have the wings flying off in all sorts of directions because of the lift calculation. Oh, that's so sad. What do we have here that's left? Oh, landing gear survived. That's pretty cool. You can see the landing gear as well also have this heat protection on the bottom, so it's quite a good thing for building space shuttles and space planes and stuff like that. So yeah, let's take a look at a couple more craft, demonstrating some practical uses for some of these parts, shall we say. Okay, so guys, this is my attack drone. Again, I tried my best to make it look a lot like an American attack drone or a British attack drone. We can see we have the yaw plane on the end of the tail, on the underside, with the two little ones on the back here, just off at an angle. This has a lot of electric power because it does need a lot of electric power. Even all these RTGs generating electricity isn't enough. It still drains electricity at an insane rate with these guys. It also has a tendency to pitch up too sharply. So if I fly this thing here, this thing is an awful design, and I wouldn't recommend actually flying this as a serious drone. I'm sure a lot of you can do better than this because I threw this together in a massive hurry. So if I bring up the resources tab here, you can see that we are getting intake air, which is going to be cooling the engines here. You can see we have the FS coolant here. So if I put on SAS, if I put the throttle up to full, you can see here we go off pretty fast. But the moment I try to pitch up, we're going to lose this bottom bit here. It's wanting to pitch up naturally, so I'm just going to touch pitch button, and hopefully we get into the air no problem. Now this is a first, but you can see here it desperately wants to pitch up, and there's nothing. You can see the pitch indicator down here is full, but there's nothing that I can do about it, and it just sort of falls back to earth really, and ends up a massive exploded mess by the side of the runway. You can see the one propeller is still going, even though it's very, very dead. So I'm just not going to touch them, and I'm going to move on to the last craft that I've got to show you, because I think that's probably a better thing to do. Okay, so guys, this is the final craft that I want to show you for this mod spotlight. This is the helicopter that I've thrown together somewhat hastily. I called it the Chopper, after Arnie's infamous speech there. I've used an SAS module. That's because this thing does need quite a lot of assistance when it comes to pitch, bearing in mind it doesn't actually have any control surfaces, something that I overlooked in the design before I actually decided to start it. As a result, I don't recommend taking this thing off at 100% thrust, because I'll show you why. So you can see here we're landing it on the runway as you would. Normal launch, throttle up to full, and off we go. And you can see before the helicopter's even started spinning fully, we're already at about 90 degrees worth of pitch from our normal, but we can recover it pretty easily. It's also pretty good at rolling, if you like. But you can see the sort of spring that it had as it actually took off from the runway. The thrust is instant in this, it's not actually it's not gradual like the animation we see, which is a shame. I really think that the helicopter could do with a bit of tweaking the helicopter parts. But then again, KSP has never really been designed for helicopter parts. We'll bring ourselves down. We are actually going up. We're going to drop the stone here. Kill our velocity ever so slightly. Not sure how much these simple landing gear can actually take. They are only meant for early light aircraft in KSP I just stuck them on here for look's sake more than anything else. So ignore ourselves to make sure that our pitch is stable to a level with the horizon. This may be a hard landing. Oh, yep, we lost the tail rotor. But aside from that, that was a successful touchdown. So we're just going to touch the brakes here. Bring ourselves to a controlled stop. So yeah guys, that was the K.A.X mod. It is a spiritual successor to the Fire Spitter mod, and it still is very much work in progress. They are definitely going to be adding a lot more parts in the near future, I'm guessing so. They have said I will leave a link to the forum page in the description down below. Also, if you want any of these craft for your own personal modification and or use, let me know in the comments down below. I'll see if I can sort something out, although I've never actually shared a craft file before, be it on Dropbox or GitHub or anything. So you guys may need to give me a hand with that because I've never actually shared a craft file before. Other than that guys, that's pretty much going to round it off for this mod spotlight. I want to give my thanks very much to Rosie Kerman for being our pilot for today. This has been, like I said, the K.A.X mod. I will leave a link to the forum down below for you to go and download it, and the Curse Forge in case any of you are weird and prefer that like me. But aside from that guys, my name is Bradders, I'm signing off, and for this mod spotlight, epic zoom out shot. Peace out guys.
Good God, was the audio really that bad on this video?
Yes, I'm afraid it was. Oh dear.
I can't believe how loud those parts actually are.
Yeah, I know. They're completely terrible, aren't they?
Yeah, well, at least it's over now. Thank God. I was hoping I never thought I'd see this zoom out shot, to be fair.
Yeah, same, me too. I can't believe it. Thank God it's over. Jesus Christ.